So it's loading. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Seven Figure Seller Summit. We are live day 3. We talked about scaling today. Today, I am super excited to have several special guests that we're speaking today. We have Nick Katz coming in from Japan. He just ran to get a glass of water.
Hey guys.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Ohio
How are you? I'm good.
Welcome.
Good. Thank you very much for
and then
having me.
also, pleasure. Also, we have Nathan Hirsch coming in from Florida. How's it going, Nathan?
It's going on. It's going well. Can't complain.
Excellent. And also we have Yana coming all the way from Serbia. How's it going, Yana?
Hey guys. Well, it's 1 a.m. over here, so.
Oh wow.
Well, thank you for being a team player. We're super grateful for your time. Excellent.
No problem.
So if you guys can see this in the chat because we are live, can you please type your name and where you're watching from, just so that we know like where you're calling from. All right. So today we covered scaling. It was day 3, and we have I think about 2,900 people that are already registered for the free pass all over the world. So I think right now it's a golden opportunity to get some FaceTime with some of our speakers, our 7-figure sellers, our experts. Nick is known as the Japan guy. He has 25 years experience in Japan, 7-figure seller selling on Amazon Japan. If you have any questions for him, Nathan Hirsch, he is the man when it comes to VAs. He's former co-founder of FreeUp. That was a huge VA hiring firm. He's worked with like probably more VAs than anybody I know. And right now he's running Outsource School. So Nathan can only be on for 15 minutes. So if you have any questions about hiring, outsourcing, hiring a VA, anything, drop your question in the chat right now before Nathan has to run. He also has a special prize before he goes. And then Yana is the person to know when it comes to expanding your markets overseas, when it comes to translations, YLT. They do localization as well, all over Europe, also UAE and these new markets. So this is awesome. And before we begin, some quick shout outs. We have Karen from Apollo Beach, Florida. Good to see you. Bruna coming from SoCal. Good to see you again. Dudu Bang, Bruna. New to Malcolm from New Zealand. Derek from Calgary, Canada. Gideon from Israel. Montserrat from New York. All right. Great to see everybody. Excellent. All right. So maybe to start out, Nathan, I know that, when it comes to scaling, I talked to a lot of the 7-figure sellers, what their biggest mistake was. And then a lot of people said it wasn't hiring soon enough. And, Nick and I, we were talking a little bit offline, about hiring VAs. We had some struggles. So I don't know, maybe Nick, if you had any questions for Nathan, I mean, that would be a great time, coming from a 7-figure seller perspective about hiring VAs or anything like that. Any thoughts about that, guys, to kick things off?
Yeah, Nick, any questions? If not,
I was speaking to some other people in kind of mastermind groups as well, and I kind of knew for a long time that I really should have some VAs. I've got a company in Japan and we've got Japanese staff, but I didn't find that the actual level of the Japanese was good enough. So I started looking for VAs and I went a bit bonkers, and I hired I don't know how many people. I had 6 in a week or 10 days. And that's interviewing 10 people for each job. And I just I didn't focus well enough. I didn't have a strategy, I think, was my problem. And it's ended up, I'm now down to 2. I literally hired and fired a whole bunch in just a few. I interviewed, hired, and fired in a few days, and it was a complete mess. So I think that I definitely needed to have a strategy, do one at a time, and really, that's something that I didn't do, and that's something I should change. And that I'd definitely be interested in hearing your opinions on the whole process of hiring a VA.
Yeah, I mean, I like to break down hiring into 4 parts. You've got interviewing, you've got onboarding, which everyone forgets, you've got the actual training and the SOPs, and then you got the actual managing them after the fact. So for me, I mean, it took me 5+ years to figure out a good interview process that not only produced A players consistently, but also let me compare VA to VA. Because what I did for years, I interview, it sounds like what you did, I interviewed 5-6 different people, but then the interview was all over the place. I wasn't necessarily asking the same questions. I didn't write down the answers. I wasn't comparing what those were. So I think the first thing is setting down and being like, all right, what is my actual system? What are the questions I'm going to ask? How am I going to onboard them? how am I going to train them afterwards? And I'm a big believer in making them prove themselves during the training, because what a lot of entrepreneurs do is they'll do one-on-one training, and then by the end of the week, they realize their virtual assistant's not any good, but they've already invested a week into training them, and then they're kind of in a tough spot. Do they start over? Do they give them another week? So I'm a big proponent in giving them the SOPs, having them read it, testing them on it, having them spend their time paid, and then proving to me that they know it before I invest my time or my team's time. So I know that's kind of a vague answer, but you really have to focus on what is the interview process, what is the onboarding process, and the rest becomes a lot clearer from there. And that's a lot of what we provide at Outsource School.
Right. Totally makes sense. I mean, you kind of hit on the fact that they should read the SOPs, but because when I started, I've never actually had SOPs in my business whatsoever. In fact, I've just recently started with my Japanese staff to actually tell them, because I've worked in companies in Japan as well. That's not a process you'd normally have in a company here. So I've actually started asking my Japanese staff, which I think is making them feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I'm asking them to write SOPs. It's like, why do you want me to write down? Because I think in their mind, it's like, you're going to fire me. So that's why I'm writing the job. I'm trying to explain that so that, if we need to add somebody, if I need to take over, if somebody else needs to take over, we're going to need to know the process. I didn't have any SOPs. So actually the first job of one of my VAs was to start writing the SOPs. So I finally found out that the SOP is absolutely key. And that's, yeah.
And one of my hacks is I'll write an SOP like 70, 80%, and then I'll hire the VA and I'll give the VA ownership of the SOP to kind of take it to the next level and keep it updated over time. And that accomplishes a lot of things at once. One, it saves me time. Two, it keeps my SOPs updated. Like when we went to sell FreeUp, we had 35 VAs, we had 6 or 7 teams. Like if I or my business partner were going to update all those SOPs over time, that would have been crazy. But when we went to sell it, all of our SOPs have been updated every month for the past 4 years. And the other thing it allows you to do is you don't want to get to a point where you have 35 VAs all reporting to Nathan. That gets a little bit crazy. But by giving them ownership, you can see who can actually handle that additional responsibility. And then you can promote team leaders and assistant team leaders and only talk to 4 people instead of the 35 or whatever your VA team is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, I like what Nathan said about giving ownership to your VA to update the SOPs. This is something that I struggle with because I create it and then it's kind of like it just stays there. It gathers dust, and if there's changes, I don't really. That's something I need to work better on. I think like one of the tips, it may have been from you, Nathan, is to like almost like in your SOP, like in the master list, to even put like a person that's responsible for it, so that they claim ownership for that. And then please excuse the background noise. That's our baby Harrison. He's just saying hello to everyone. So
actually, also Chris is trying to get in as well. It sounds like.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's
great.
Chris crying behind you.
And welcome, Chris. We weren't sure if that crying was coming from our baby Harrison or from you, Chris. But welcome, Chris Davey from Shenzhen.
Morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Hey,
Good
Chris.
morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
So good. Welcome. Chris Davey is a 7-figure seller. He's an alum of the 7-figure seller summit. He also runs FBA for You, which is the biggest Amazon seller meetup during Canton Fair in China. So whenever we get back to normal, I highly, highly recommend you guys check it out. It's a great way to meet other like-minded entrepreneurs, especially when you're in China going to Canton Fair. So welcome, Chris. How's it going, man?
Yeah, all right. Just waking up. Sorry, the shower took a little bit longer today.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So some more shout outs. So good morning from India, Rahul, our friend from Kima. Good. And good to see you, Nathan from Chicago, and Craig from Australia. Excellent. So Nathan, I know that you got to run in a couple minutes. And then you have a special giveaway for one of our lucky viewers today. Can you talk a little bit more about that for us?
Yeah. So at Outsource School, we have 3 parts. We have our hiring process. We have all of our SOPs around operations and marketing, and we have our software, Simply SOP. And we're going to give out any one of our SOPs. You can go to the process shop of Outsource School. Whoever wins can pick out whichever one they want, and we'll give it to them for free. Do you have a trivia question? If not, I have one.
Let's use yours, Nathan.
All right. Mine is more about me. So I don't want to make everything about me if you have a better one.
Okay. Well, I mean, we talked a lot about you in your session. I mean, not
Right.
but it was super valuable. Okay. Let's do this. I'm just curious for everybody watching right now. Here's a chance to win a free, a free, very valuable SOP building system from Nathan. Okay. What is your number one takeaway from day 3 of the summit so far when it comes to scaling? Can you type it in your chat, in the chat box right now? What is the number one takeaway? All right. Whether it's, having something to do with hiring or, possibly expanding internationally to Japan, or, Yana's session, she gave a lot of really good tips about, translations, localizations, don't use Google Translate, or, Chris Davey, he was on yesterday's, session about building a brand and the product portfolio. So let's, so answer right now before Nathan has to run. Okay. And Nathan, what are some other most common questions that you get a lot when it comes to outsourcing and hiring VAs?
I think one of the biggest things is people understanding how they can, or I guess what a VA is. And I like to break it down between the followers, the doers, and the experts, because you're going to have to hire all 3 of them. The followers are what I consider virtual assistants, $5 to $10 an hour, non-US, there to follow your systems, your processes, your SOPs. And then you have the doers, the graphic designers, the video editors, the writers. You're not teaching a graphic designer how to be a graphic designer, but they're not consulting with you either. They're there to do that one task at a high level. And then you got the experts, the high-level freelancers, high-level consultants, agencies, whatever it is, that bring their own system, their own process to the table. And I think where a lot of people get tripped up is hiring the wrong level, hiring a follower and then saying, hey, I don't know how to do Amazon PPC, go run my PPC ads, or hiring an expert who has their own way of doing something that they've had a lot of success and saying, hey, I'm going to pay you, but you need to do it my way, which doesn't make a lot of sense either. So I think just understanding the different levels and really looking at your business and creating a list of all the tasks you know how to do that you have systems for, and all the tasks that you need to get done but you don't know how to do, so you can figure out, hey, I need the followers for these and I need the doers and the experts for those.
Perfect. And that's awesome. We got some replies in the chat right now. Some takeaways. So TNT says translations are really important. And Craig says cash flow is king. Karen, consistent communication to your team and treat them like family who are valued.
It's a good one.
Elsie, yeah. Do not waste your time on low paid activities. Prioritize the most important things and outsource the rest. And New2, it's important to hire good and reliable VAs to grow your business. And Nathan Kasahun, outsourcing in the Philippines. So these are the answers. Nathan, who's the winner? Why don't you tell us?
I like the one about family. That's a good one. I'm a big proponent of building family within teams. It reduces turnover. It makes business fun. So I'm going to go with that one.
Excellent. Congratulations, Karen Sandifer. Consistent communication to your team. Treat them like family who are valued. So Karen, feel free to email us at support@sevenfiguresellersummit.com, and then we'll connect you with Nathan so you can claim your prize. All right. So definitely we're offering huge ROI for all you guys today. And I think one of the best ways to get the most out of this is if you have a friend or if you know someone that is interested in scaling their business, why not invite them to join us on this live right now? So if you want to, bring a friend, ask them to join. I think that's one of the best ways to learn. Okay. So excellent. Thanks so much, guys. And also I wanted to introduce Peter Bray, coming in from Australia, 7-figure seller and specialist in wholesaling. How's it going, Peter?
Good, thank you, Gary. Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Excellent. Glad you could join us. We're here with Nick Katz, Nathan Hirsch, Chris Davey, and Yana. So welcome, Peter. It's great to see you. Excellent. So, okay. So talking about Nathan, you're welcome to stay.
Yeah, I'm going to head out.
Yeah, if you got to run, thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate you. Stay safe out there in Florida. We'll talk soon. All right.
Yeah. See you guys.
Okay.
See you,
Take
Nathan.
care.
Bye.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent. So next, if you guys have any questions in the chat, we're talking about scaling. If you have any questions about translations. Yana is the specialist when it comes to that. And then we have a question, our first question actually, from Derek. Okay, Derek, he says, "Hi, Nick. You mentioned a dislike for made in China. Does that mean you shouldn't launch a product that's made in China, even if your brand is, say, Canadian?" I believe he's referencing to your talk about do's and don'ts of selling to Japanese consumers. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Derek. Great question. The answer is no. It's totally fine being made in China. Being made in China is not a problem. If it's a Canadian brand, just make sure that it's a Canadian brand. If not in the title, way up in your bullet points, certainly have that in your images as well. Japanese are totally fine if things are made in China, as long as they're not reminded that it's made in China. They really complain about things, but I mean, iPhone is king in Japan. I don't know what the market penetration is. I think it's like 70%. I mean, everyone has an iPhone. But if you tell a Japanese person that's made in China, they'll be, no, it's not. It's an American company, right? So it's as long as it doesn't look like, and probably Yana will understand this really well as well. If your copy, if the way that your translation is done, that makes it sound like the way that a Chinese person does it, then that'll make them think it may be Chinese or a Chinese brand. And so you've got to be very, very careful with things like your copy as well. But if you're a Canadian brand, no, just really, really push that. Designed in Canada, Canadian owners, Canadian thoughts, Canadian designs. Just leave off the made in China bit and they'll probably work it out.
Excellent. Great. So, all right. So switching gears a little bit, when it comes to scaling, one of the top ways is to expand overseas. And I know that Yana, you've worked with so many Amazon sellers to help them with their listing translations. And it's not just a matter of translations. And I'm curious, Yana, maybe if you can share today, what are some of the most common mistakes you're seeing a lot of sellers make when they're trying to expand internationally?
Right. So, one of the first mistakes is what Nick already mentioned, and that's actually, failing to translate that to not to just do regular translation, but to fail in localization part. When you actually have like a US listing or let's say a German listing, and you just translate that as it is, the same style, the same sentence structure, translate it as it is for the Japanese marketplace. Japanese buyers would not understand that because this listing would not be localized and it would not be made in a specific style for the target marketplace. So that's even more important than the translations itself. A lot of times you cannot just translate things like word by word. It's not an instruction manual on how to, use Netflix or something. It's like you have to convey the right message to your potential buyers. And that's why you need to adjust the listings a little bit. You need to change the style. A lot of times you need to change the text. And that's why your source text and your target text would not be 100% the same, because you would use definitely localization, and on top of everything, you would have to use keywords. So I would say that the most common mistake is that people don't pay attention to any localization at all, and that they just translate the word by word, and just they hope that the target audience would understand that. I mean, of course, if you have a good product, you're definitely going to sell it well. But just imagine what more you could do for your product and your sales if you have like a really good optimized sales copy. So localization, failure with localization is definitely number one. Number two is hiring just a random translator on Fiverr who doesn't know anything about Amazon, doesn't have any marketing experience. So it's like going to the doctors, you want to go and get your tooth fixed and you go to a plastic surgeon. Translators, they have a different areas of expertise. And if you have someone who's brilliant in legal documents, they're probably not going to be as good in making a good sales copy that is marketing translations. So you really want to have someone who knows what he's doing. And regular translators, they don't know what's the length of the title, what the bullets, how do they do keyword research. So mistake number two is definitely not hiring someone who has Amazon experience or any marketing experience at all. And I would say third mistake could be translating the keywords, which is a very big mistake, because if you take, I just had a conversation like this 2 hours ago with a client, And he was like, I have a list of keywords. It's like the US marketplace, and they wanted to get that translated for the whole Europe. And even if you like have a US keyword, like if you have the list of keywords, they are not necessarily going to be the same for the UK marketplace. So it could happen that you have like some different keyword combinations for UK marketplace, even though it's the same language, it's English, but it's not necessarily that people look for the same things or use the same word combination to form the long tail keyword. So just imagine what happens when you have like German or French or any other language that also has a different wording structure. Like German language has a really big, like a lot of these compound words. These are like really big chunky words, and you can literally express like a whole sentence with like one big German compound word. And what's often like what often happens as a mistake is that if you have like Helium 10 or any other tool, the word count for the long tail keywords is set by default as number 2. It says word count number 2. And then if you put that number, you're not going to get in German language, you're not going to get those compound words in your results at all. And you would just think like, okay, I'm going to index for all of these great keywords I got in my results, and this is probably what all my competitors are doing. And you will not be getting the compound words, which are very often high search volume keywords, because they are so, like, these words are so frequently used in German language, and you will be missing out on so many potentially good keywords that your competitors are, most likely being ranked for, and you're not. So never translate keywords, and of course, don't use Google Translate. It has come a long way. It's not how it was 10 years ago, but it's still not a good tool. It still doesn't have a human brain. It doesn't know anything about context, and it can do you a lot of harm. And it's a free tool, and like a lot of stuff which are for free, they cost you the most. So I would suggest never to use Google Translate unless you want to figure out how does your vacuum cleaner work. That's just it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
Actually, can I just quickly add something there? If you have a translator, and Jana's definitely experienced this, you'll give the translation to a client. The client will put it into Google Translate, and then they'll come back to you and say, "This is wrong. This isn't what I put." It's like, no,
yeah,
it's a cultural translation. It won't work back again. It's not.
It's very disturbing because a lot of sellers still use Google Translate as a quality check, and that's absolutely wrong. I mean. Yeah. Or they were just gonna put the text and be like, this doesn't look like my basic text. This is completely wrong. And when you use different keywords and you have to do the keyword research for each marketplace separately, of course you're gonna you're gonna form the sentence and everything around these keywords. So you have to kind of rephrase sentences a little bit. And of course, every language has its own rules and like own sentence structures. So it's really, really different. And of course that the text is not going to be 100% the same. I would be worried if I put the text in Google Translate and it came up to be 100% the same as my English text is. It's a quality check, control for, this is not supposed to happen, that you get like 100% the same text. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
that's a big takeaway.
Sorry, I was going to say, combining what Nick said and Jana, how many times have I had my listings translated that say designed in the UK and they come back made in the UK?
We see this a lot. And a lot of people like have the packed like in Spain, for instance, and they translate it as, made in Spain or like a Spanish product and stuff like that. So that's quite often it's just the sake of the Google Translate. Yeah.
Actually, there is one other quick thing I'd like to add, and it's going to be very hard to understand in a way if you are monolingual. The problem is if you're monolingual or bilingual or multilingual, you'll understand the importance of translations completely differently. If you're monolingual, if you're like, I'm from the UK, a lot of people in the UK only speak English. It's the same for America. They don't really understand the importance of a translation. But if you do speak another language, then you understand it. Like any seller in Europe, they want to have really good translations when they go into other marketplaces. But I find that monolingual speakers don't understand the value of a translation because they're not really aware of how languages are totally different. Just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. I think, Jana, you provided a very interesting example in your training today, talking about I believe it was Hyundai cars, and then they launched in Portugal. And then one of the models of the car, it was like they translated it into like a name of a female sex organ or something, and then it was like
it was the that was a really cool example. I love that. It's Hyundai. Yeah, it was Hyundai Kona. And Kona is a Hawaiian island, and they just decided to like launch that like in whole Europe. But the problem was that in Portuguese, Kona means female organ, and so people over there didn't want to buy it, and Hyundai lost like tons of money, and then they just kind of came up with like rebranding, and they named it Hyundai Kauai. So they picked another Hawaiian island, and it didn't have any bad connotation in Portuguese or any other language. But there's so many examples like that people just didn't do their homework, and it's it's not only like you would think maybe like some small Amazon sellers would make mistakes like that, but like a lot of like world like giant like companies, like 10-figure sellers would just kind of make horrible mistake like that and never do any market research or anything, not even like checking the meaning of the word in a foreign language. That's how irrelevant they think it is, and it does them like so much harm. Just because they just didn't check. And besides just making a fool of yourself if you translate it improperly, Rahul brought up a really good point, because if they mention the country of origin incorrectly, that can get you into a lot of trouble as well. If it's designed in UK versus made in UK, I mean, you can get in trouble with like customs and face fines or penalties. So I think that's a great tip as well. And we have a follow-up question from Gideon Goldring. For a new seller that just started selling on Amazon North America 2 months ago, how long till you should expand to Europe or Australia or Japan, and which one should you expand to first? Who would like to take a stab at this?
I don't know. Could I go?
Happy to have
Australia. Go.
Yeah. Peter, why don't you weigh in? You're in Australia. We'd love to hear more. Yeah.
We have some nice diversity here. So Peter Bay from Australia, been in business 20 years, doing well in this new game called Amazon, which is an amazing model. And so we've focused on the US, and things have really grown quickly for us. We have launched a presence on Amazon in Australia. We were thinking about Germany because we're in the home improvement sector and we cater for the professional market, and so Germany is a big market for us. But we're really looking to consolidate in the US, because I think it takes time to really understand, to see how your product matures, so you can get the pricing right. So you can, because we're also looking to tap into wholesale markets as well. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and I think it's really valuable to consolidate rather than spreading ourselves thin into other markets where we haven't really established our sort of strong proof of concept. But now we're getting close. So 3 years in, with some of the products, they've matured, so we really understand the price point. We've had feedback from the market. Australia is to a much lesser degree of our interest. We have it there as a presence. We're now able to expand into Canada, but the next step will be Germany. But we don't know a time frame for that. So I think it's really, I think a lot of sellers make the mistake of trying to spread themselves too thin too quickly, when really the US, that's where the action is. That's where you can price your product, get your proof of concept, and really give yourself time for the product to mature and see where it's tracking. How do you guys think about this?
I'll give slightly the opposite opinion. Yeah. So from day one, when I launched my products, in fact, the first product I launched in the whole of Europe, Japan, and the US pretty much all at the same time. The one caveat I will give is that Europe was a lot easier then because there was less VAT requirements, although I ended up getting a fine for that, but that's another story. But what I would say is there was one particular product that I launched in the US that really flopped. And if I hadn't launched it in Europe, I wouldn't have ever known that this was really hot seller in Europe. So what ended up happening was, you know, I made the stock, let's say I made 1,000 pieces, thinking, oh, I've been doing great in America. I sent like 900 to the US and 100 to the UK, which I sold in Europe. 100 in the UK sold out in like 5 days. The 900 in the US, well, in the end, I ended up throwing some of them away. And what ended up happening was I had to make another production run just to send to Europe. And basically that product became like a real top seller in Europe for about 2 years. And it really flopped in the US. So it was selling in the US, but not very well. So reason being was there was so much more competition in the US than there was Europe. So.
Yeah. And I love how we were getting the different perspectives on this viewpoint. You know, some sellers like Peter, they're entering US, they're doubling down and holding off. Whereas, you know, people like Chris, they're doing like a multi, country diversified strategy. And then you can see it works different ways because every product is different, you know, every marketplace, competition, everything's different. So I think the beauty of having this type of like mastermind where you have like all these 7-figure sellers and, you know, experts like Yana, because you can really weigh in on the different sides of this as well. And, you know, me personally, like I've launched one of my kitchen bestseller products in Australia, and I just got like a tiny trickle of sales. Like, you know, when I really wanted to ride the wave, you know, people were saying, oh, you gotta, you know, claim that, that shelf space. It's like, you know, if you can, you know, lock it in, but, you know, maybe it was just our product. It wasn't that big, but yeah, I think, you know, at the same time, you know, I also like Chris's strategy because for a new product that I was launching only in Japan. Now I decided to place like a small bet in, you know, 3 different markets. So Japan, so I'm going to split that small order into 3, into Japan, into US, and into EU. So I'm trying to like do that test. And if one of them catches, you know, gets traction, then I'm going to, you know, double down on that market. So I think like all these strategies are great. And, you know, when it comes to this, this is awesome. And,
can I quickly add something onto that, Gary? Sorry.
Absolutely. Nick, go ahead. Yeah.
From the original question came from someone that's been selling for 2 months in America. So I kind of agree with everyone, but also if he's only been selling for 2 months in America, then Gideon, I think he's got to learn Amazon first. So I would, if it's a new product, I would just stick with America for quite a few months, if not, you know, a good year or so, just to make sure you understand Amazon and how to do things on Amazon, and you know, get a solid foundation. But if you're a seller that's already been selling on Amazon for a while, then you can definitely start to move off onto other platforms quicker, I think, depending on the product. But the other thing I'd mention is even if you've only been selling on Amazon for 2 months, and so it's probably best just to stick with America until you understand Amazon itself, I would spend a bit of time every week or every month researching other marketplaces, because it's a really big thing when you move into a marketplace. There is a lot to do. It's not just translations. There's logistics. There's warehousing, especially with the Brexit coming up from January next year. There's a lot of things you'll need to learn. So if you try and learn that all at the same time, you will not have time to work on your US business. So you got to really break it down into what you need to actually do, and then don't hurry it. Do your research into where your products are going to be good, how you're going to get in. If you're going to start in Japan, there's a different process for starting in Europe. If you start in Europe, you're going to have to look into, finding a tax agent or someone to your VAT and your filings. There's all these things you've got to look into. So just give yourself time. Otherwise, it will just be impossible. But definitely, if you want to go somewhere after the US, definitely look at UK, then Germany, then Japan. Depending on products, you may want to start with Japan first for the pure reason everyone goes America, UK, Germany. So that's where the competition is. Germany is definitely the best place in Europe by an absolute mile. It is way better than the UK for virtually every product. But I say UK first just because it's just less pain. You're going to have to handle all the VAT crap, the logistics crap for either country, but at least the language might be easier for you if you're an American seller. But you want to get into Germany as soon as possible because Germany dominates Europe. Most of the sellers, most of the countries in Europe are sent their products from Germany. They use the German Amazon, so it will almost invariably be way bigger than the UK. But then you've got the language issue to handle. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, the reason that Germany is so good is because, like you said, in many countries out of Germany.
Yeah, most people don't realize
so-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, like if your country doesn't have like your Amazon Marketplace, like they get transferred that you buy from Amazon Germany, like so the Amazon Sweden, they like Amazon just announced it, and like if you type like Amazon.se, it still leads you to Amazon.de, which is the German Amazon. So definitely, it's like a like a 5-star marketplace, definitely.
Yeah, they started doing that like with the Netherlands. So, it's like it's shipped from Germany. Yeah, but they just set up the front page to be the Netherlands, but the shipment's still from Germany.
Yeah, the warehouse over there. Yeah. It's a 100,000 euros threshold still, the long distance selling. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't actually know
yeah.
that. Really? Okay.
Yeah, but the Dutch
Okay.
marketplace hasn't been that good. I mean, like a lot of people had like great expectations. And I remember like I was talking to some sellers when I met Chris last year in October, better times. But like a lot of people were, excited about selling on Dutch marketplace, and that marketplace hasn't shown any results. I mean, PPC hasn't still rolled out yet, and a lot of people haven't had that many sales. So I don't know what to think about, that like being in a marketplace, like what Amazon like tried to do with that, since they didn't roll out any PPC. Like they were like, nothing was especially happening on that marketplace, even though it had like a really good potential, having all high e-commerce penetration and everything. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe something happens next year with that.
Excellent.
Yeah, I send.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Go
that
ahead, Nick.
I send screenshots, or Chris and me send screenshots about our sales in Holland.
Yeah, mine have smashed you out of the park now. Because
Oh mate, I'm on
I
like
had-
2 to 3 a day now.
I
Oh
had a
my
store in Holland contact me, want to sell the product wholesale, and I was like, my first response was I replied back to them, sorry, I can't do wholesale for Holland. And then I checked it out in a bit more detail, and I found that Amazon Prime in Holland at the moment is on special offer. It's only €2.99. Yeah. So then what I done was I set them up a discount code on Holland and told them minimum order 20 pieces, buy them from Amazon, sign up for an Amazon Prime account. Yeah, you'll get the delivery for €2.99. So, and basically they bought 20 pieces from me. Yeah. So
That's genius.
Very
Genius.
smart.
Peter, can you weigh in a little bit more, talking about going wholesale? Because this is one of the most underrated ways of scaling your business. I know that this was like one of the key, strategies that you use to scale your business to 7 figures. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So if I can just sort of touch on this question of, diversifying into other markets. And I like what Nick said in that, if someone's been on Amazon for 2 months, they really need to learn how to play the game. And so for us, we've been in business for 20 years. We really know our market and our products really well. And we like to keep it simple. So we're trying to shave away complexity. So going into market, small scale, get a proof of concept. And when we have the social proof, then we have something to go with. But if we'd pulled the trigger to move into other marketplaces, we have to now diversify our energy. We have to do all the things with, say, if we went into, Germany or Spain or the UK, we have to kind of pivot our attention to getting translations, as Jana does with her company. And then we have to think about financially, okay, how much money and time and, do we allocate to putting stock into Germany where we're starting from scratch? And so, there's a lot of opportunity, but I think, there's an opportunity cost. So there's so much room for us. And once again, it's going to differ from product to product and seller based on their experience. But for new Amazon sellers, I think it's really unwise. They need to learn how to play the game, because, I mentor a lot of business people, not just in Amazon, and they don't invest in education, and they don't spend a lot of time in research and testing, and they get unstuck. And so a year down the track, it's kind of like the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, where they say, oh, this is what I've done, and it's cost them $20,000 and a year or 2 years of their time, when they've pushed ahead too quickly. So here's an example. So our focus is the US market, and we've been in this marketplace for about 13 years. We still heavily rely on our partners on the ground in the US and Canada for the translations of technical terms, even though Australia, USA, Canada, we're very aligned in this sort of home improvement sector, but we get tripped up on the language. It's incredible. Like, we're so similar in some respects, but in others, it's like a different universe. So if we don't get the language right, so we need to get that right for the keywords and the listing. And because we're tapping into the professional market, if professionals jump on our site and they can see, if they can see that the language doesn't resonate with them, they're going to see that we're pretenders. So it takes a lot of time and energy to get that right. And so jumping into other markets too soon, certainly in our situation, we felt was unwise. But now we've had more time to consolidate. We can expand further, because you need to think of the money side too. You need to think of the logistics, and with what we've had in 2020 with this economic and health crisis, it's a black swan event. So it's like all of our best planning based on 3 years of historic records have kind of gone out the window, because we've been quickly out of stock for a whole month. So now we're having to sort of get back into it. So how much stock do we bring in? Amazon are making changes. There's delays here and there. So there's a lot of complexity. So I like to take the approach, and other sellers are different. Keep it simple. For me, I like to shave away complexity because there's an opportunity cost with every decision that you make. There's a cost in that. There's going to be a benefit and a pro and a con. So that's just me. And so what we're doing is really working in our niche and for our brand. And I just see that a lot of people that are wanting to get into the game get tripped up on complexity, trying to do too much too soon, and they're losing. There's far more ways to lose money than there are to make money in this game. And
Right,
you guys,
right.
as pros, would know this all too well. So
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So,
So
What-
yeah,
Oh,
you
sorry.
go, Chris.
I was going to say one thing I would say was it was a lot easier to get into Europe when I basically went into all the different channels. Yeah, it's become a lot more complicated. There's a lot more requirements from Amazon now on packaging, on CE, on VAT, on like a whole stack of legal stuff that you need to sort out. Back then, it was like I filled my suitcase up. It was around Christmas time. I was going back to the UK. I took all these products back with me in the suitcase, and then I sent them into Amazon. And that was basically how I started in Europe.
Okay.
And then I started to sell really well. And then I was like, okay, then I sent more.
Okay. If I could maybe get another example, say, okay, if you look at the size and scope of the US market, like it's incredible. And I think for some people, there's not really a need to diversify anytime soon. They're just creating a lot of hurt for themselves when they need time to really consolidate and exploit the opportunities for them. 1 product, 2 product, 3 products. How's it going? Some might be a hit, some might be a flop. We've had, we essentially have 3 products that are going great. We've had about 4 products that have gone, so, but we've deleted them because it's, the volume just isn't there. So for the US market, over 300 million people, Canada, as a rule of thumb, is about 10% of that. Our product resonates in the Canadian market very well. There's a lot of interest there, but a year, 2 years ago, we had to decide, well, okay, do we sort of pivot a bit to get stock into Canada FBA to sort of facilitate the interest there, or do we hold back? Because some people are still buying the product, but it's the lead times to get it and the freight is very expensive. So we thought about it and we decided to hold off. And now through the new sort of FBA scheme that Amazon have, where they facilitate orders into Canada, we're picking up sales, but there's still because it's not FBA Canada, there's there's a longer lead time, and the Canadians are having to pay more freight. So for us, even though there's good demand there, we're not at the stage where we want to invest to get product into FBA Canada. But at the same time, we have a wholesaler in Canada, and that's part of the market that we're moving into. And you know, Gary was questioning me on this wholesale aspect. And at the same time, we have to be very sensitive to our wholesale customers that are trying to build their market, and how do we handle that also selling on Amazon direct to consumer. So you know, these things take time to work out, and I think the wholesale avenue is a much longer term game that is not going to interest the majority of people. But for those looking long term to really build a brand and a business that they could, if they're looking to exit, if you have the potential for wholesale connectivity and scalability, that is something seriously valuable. So we're building. It's early days for us, but that's an exciting part of it, because you know, it's easy business, and we know it's just a matter of time that we'll get a bigger player in the market that sees the potential. And so the evaluation of the sale of the business will be much more than if it was just selling on Amazon itself.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, wholesale, it is a more long-term play. And I encourage you guys to check out Peter Bray's session. He really dives deep into, you know, the exact steps he took. Also, you know, social media, how he's, you know, reaching out to small influencers to, you know, build his brand, and, you know, people are actually contacting him as well. So, you know, as we were pivoting, you know, there's so many different ways we can scale. I'd just like to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Ping Pong Payments. So Ping Pong is a payment processor, and then they specialize in helping e-commerce and Amazon sellers. And I like to use my own analogy why you should use a payment processor, and maybe you guys can weigh in as well. Because when I first started selling internationally, when I expanded, I used Amazon's default payment method, where, you know, Amazon would just convert the money back into my home currency. And then at the end of the year, I found out the hard way. My bookkeeper told us that we were paying 3.9% in fees to Amazon just to bring that money back in our home currency. So if I had used a third party like a Ping Pong, for example, I could cut that down to 1%. So, you know, saving almost like, you know, 2.9% in fees across like a 6 or 7 figure business. That's like thousands or tens of thousands of dollars over the course of the year. So, you know, Ping Pong, you know, what's cool about them is that it's free to make transfers around the world in the same currency. So if you get paid for your Amazon US sales in US dollars, you can use Ping Pong to pay Chinese suppliers in USD for free. There's no wire transfer fee. And then foreign exchange fees start at 1% or lower depending on your volume. So if you're selling internationally on Amazon or other platforms, stop leaving money on the table and, you know, start saving using Ping Pong Payments now. And then you can check them out at usa.pingpongx.com. Okay, this way, when you do decide to go international, or if you are selling internationally, you can save a lot of money that way. So just one quick tip, and thank you to our sponsor, Ping Pong, with that. All right.
Yeah. On that, Gary, I would say my bookkeeper calculated it as that I was losing 6% almost, because I was bringing back the money into Hong Kong. They were putting it into Hong Kong dollars, and then all of my suppliers wanted paying me in US dollars, and then I was moving it all back from Hong Kong dollars back into US dollars. So,
yeah, that's like a double conversion hit that you got. You know, I've gotten hit with that as well. Yeah, definitely.
Although okay. I read yesterday, actually, I think it was on Leoran's Facebook, someone's, that Amazon's now reducing it down to 1.5 or something for certain regions, but it's still way higher than the processors are. You have to be using a proper processor for this. You don't want to be using Amazon for sure. That's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah. And as you scale, you need to keep going back to them and asking them to improve the rate as well. That's the other thing. Because I started off at 1.5%, but not paying anywhere near 1.5% now. But that's because we're doing much greater volumes than we were before, you know. So.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And we had a comment from Bruna about translations as well. Embarazada in Portuguese means ashamed, and in Spanish means pregnant. Huge difference. Yes, that's why you got to get a real translator and not use Google Translate. That's gonna be a little embarrassing. And Rahul said, on the same lines, a famous university is busy deleting comments from Indians about their name. Be wise when you name anything. It means male organ. Okay, so universities have made these mistakes as well. And Rahul had a follow-up question for Nick. Maybe you could give some snippets from your speech in Hong Kong about the things which are different in Japan from the rest of the world. You have a brilliant strategy and experience for that. Maybe you can give some quick tips.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I saw that, Ralph. Put me on the spot. Yeah, no, that's like a whole. That's a whole presentation right there. I mean, yeah, things are different, but things are different between the US and Germany, between the UK and Germany. I mean, just things are different. So, I mean, there are lots of different things that I kind of mentioned to do, but the easiest to do is just to look on YouTube, watch a video. Like I mentioned, I don't know if that's what Raul was actually mentioning, but for example, if you wanted to sell kitchen stuff in Japan, kitchens look entirely different, right? They're completely different from a kitchen in the UK or a kitchen or a standard, although standard is kind of difficult in other countries. In Japan, there is a standard kitchen pretty much. So just look on video. Sorry,
I just thought you were done. Sorry, I just wanted to wade in on when you were kind of watching YouTube videos. So Raul, you can take a look the video which says, why did Walmart fail in Japan? That's a really interesting video. And why did Costco win over Japanese hearts, and what happened? And that's completely a good explanation, and the differences, different preferences, what people love, what people hate. I mean, one of really interesting examples, how is Japan different than the Western countries?
Yeah. And Yana, you gave a really good overview. Sorry. Sorry, we're talking over each other a little bit. Just want to say, Yana gave a really good overview of that. Why Walmart failed, Costco succeeded, and why in Australia, Starbucks is kind of just they're kind of just puttering around. They're not really successful just because of the different nuances, with the consumers.
But now there's no Starbucks in Australia. That's how,
wow.
where we were. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they kept making that comparison between Amazon and Starbucks for a while. Yeah. About Amazon going into Australia, and will they be another Starbucks? So.
But this actually comes back to that whole branding question that somebody mentioned about Japan earlier on, whether they should use the reason why Costco's nailed it, and also Starbucks has totally nailed Japan, because they've really used the American branding. Like if you go to Costco, it's just, you see little Japanese people with these huge American size trolleys, and you kind of feel like you're an American when you go to Costco, right? And they've got these huge garden tents and things you have in your garden, these huge things. No one in Japan has a garden that big. Literally there'll be 2 people in the whole damn country that could have it. But the fact that it's there, it kind of reinforces this is an American, this stuff is big. We sell big stuff cheap. And it's just totally everything you do in Costco reinforces the fact that it's it's done brilliantly. And it's the same with Starbucks. And I know Australians have a lot more sense than that. They've got the Australian pride, and they want to kind of encourage Australian businesses. And so if you say you're an Australian business in Australia, that goes a lot further than saying you're a Japanese business in Japan. Saying you're an American business in Japan works really well, whereas it may work against you in countries like Australia. Sorry, Peter, I'm English, but I'm assuming that's kind of close enough.
Yeah. I think there's, excuse me, that sentiment of, I think more and more people are disappointed that, we don't make a great deal of things in Australia, or if we do, it's more boutique things. We can't compete on scale. There's not the population base. Things are expensive. So trying to, we'd dearly love to have a product made in Australia that we put into, through our branding, but it's just not viable. It just, the pricing would just be so expensive, and just trying to get companies that can do things at scale. So we're forced to go to China. We're looking for other areas, but that made in Australia thing, made in the US, there's, parochial, nationalistic. So it's interesting I wasn't aware of that in Japan it's not as strong, sort of that feeling to have that sort of made in Japan.
No, it is good, but
is?
made in America also goes a long way, especially for a brand like Costco. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Starbucks.
Well, I know in Japan, obviously a lot of American franchises. Baseball is huge in Japan. So
exactly,
there is that sort of strong affiliation and connection there.
All right, excellent. We're almost out of time, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Meanwhile, Derek had an earlier question. He asked, what did you find the major challenges of launching into your second or third country? What did you find were the major challenges?
Oh, wow. I mean, like there's everything. It depends on whether it's the same language or different language or same tax system or different tax system. If it's different language and tax system.
VAT is the biggest challenge now, I think. Like, it's not a challenge to do it, but it's like, you need to put a lot of money into it. And if you're not selling anything yet, you don't want to put a lot, you don't want to be paying like someone like Avask 7,000 euros a year, to manage VAT if you haven't got any sales at that point. When you're doing £1 million or €1 million, then like 7,000 euros is nothing, and you're just like, okay, I'll pay it. But at the beginning, it's a big problem. That's why I think it was much easier before to get into these countries. Now Amazon got all these requirements. Oh, you need all these VAT numbers, otherwise you're going to get your accounts blocked. It become a lot more difficult.
Right. And Chris, I just thought of something that you mentioned in your session, talking about, as you're scaling your products, you have a very interesting strategy that's a little outside the box. I mean, I think you used that analogy that Steve Jobs said, like whether you're in coach or first class, everyone lands on the ground at the same time, right? Do you want to share a little bit more about that, in terms of how you're building out your brand portfolio as you're scaling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I was basically talking about was the fact about going up with your price points to premiumize your brand. So, and I was using some examples there of things that do exactly the same job, but cost very different amounts of money. And one of the ones I gave in the presentation was coffee machines. At the end of the day, coffee machines make you a cup of coffee. But if you go to like Nespresso or something's website and they've got 25 different coffee machines, with the entry level one being like $50 and the most expensive one being $2,000, at the end of the day, they all make you a cup of coffee. But there's the opportunity to make premium versions of your product. And we've done that with some of our brands, and we're definitely expanding that now. And actually, I had a slight question for Peter around that, which was, when you're going wholesale, Peter, are you going wholesale with the same brand, or is it a different brand to you're selling on e-commerce? Just curious.
So with the same brand. So we have brand strength, we have registered trademarks, and so we've drawn a lot of attention through having a strong proof of concept and social proof through Amazon. That's how it creates great visibility. And yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, Chris, to do with the premium end. Our model is being the premium option in the space. Mm-hmm. Just being better than everyone else, better quality, better value, better standards, better packaging, better everything. So we can command the high price, which gives us the margin. So we can compete, we can sink more money into PPC. We can diversify into, we can sell direct to dealers. We have the margins to be able to have a wholesale model. Whereas, some people that are just, they're launching based on price, their margins are so thin, they can't do all these other things.
Yeah, no, I've got both. So we've got two brands. So one of them's like more premium, and the other one's a lower brand.
Okay.
But recently we were contacted by I was contacted by a director of one of the biggest companies out there in our space. And basically he was telling me, he just left that company and he wanted to team up with me, to make my brand more successful. Yeah. Okay. And it was good to have that phone call with him. because there was a lot of stuff he didn't understand as well. Like, we are the number one in the e-commerce space, even though they're a big multinational and they sell in shops all over, but they're number one in retail. But my products are priced to sell on e-commerce, and them particular products couldn't sell in retail and have a big enough margin. So that was why I was kind of asking that question. So
it's the same brand, and we're very careful. We've had a lot of companies approach us saying, can we private label this? Can you make for us? Can we sell it under our brand? It's not really an attractive option for us, because then we just become a factory. But we are interested with the right collaboration to do a co-branding, because there's synergy there. So it's like you have the IBM with Intel chip. There's a lot of great case studies for brand synergy. So if they're a reputable company, we want to ride on the back of their success. But it's also important that they know that our product is highly successful as well. So that brings credibility to their game as well. So so both work well together, and it sort of helps to protect us, because with a lot of our products, they're not really something that you can patent. They're relatively easy to copy, and we have a lot of copycat sellers. But what we're driving is the tribal following, the brand strength, which is very powerful. It's great. The premium option. So if there are opportunities for other avenues under different brands, but we want to be very protective of that premium brand, and so it has to have the right look and feel and consistency.
Yeah, I understand. We've been building out a social media following as well since like the beginning of the year. And one sort of out of the box story was that basically someone copied our product and put it onto Kickstarter. And within 12 hours, I had emails about it. I had messages through Instagram from our followers saying, "Hey, someone copied your product." So it's really good to have all these sets of eyes out there, which was something that I'd never thought about when I started developing this sort of social media presence. So.
Yeah. And so I think because even with patenting, I mean, a lot of people, they feel they've spent the money, they've got the patent, they have some sort of like emotional barrier of protection. In 20 years in business, certainly in our field, we've seen time and time again where Australian companies have had all the protections in the world, and they're meaningless if they don't have the money to defend a patent breach. And trying to go after a Chinese company for breaching your patent, good luck with that. You need the money, you need the time. Do you want to go down that path? Do you want to lawyer up and put in a defense for that? I think a lot of people, it's a highly misunderstood area. So I think in brand, if you focus on building the brand, sure. I mean, do the patent stuff. If it's a feel good for you, but you just focus on developing your brand, and you'll get your following. You'll get your slice of the pie, because people will resonate with you. Based on so we high customer service. We know what we're talking about, well researched products, and because the competition is going to come hard and fast. So
for sure. Excellent. Well, I'd love to chat more, guys, but I want to respect everybody's time today. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Yana. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter, for joining us. Everyone watching, please check out their sessions. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We each deep dive for an hour into, entering Japan, into, internationalization, localizing your listings with Yana, with, your branding, your product portfolio, and how to scale with Chris, and also wholesaling with Peter, and, coming all the way with us from Australia. So super thankful for that. Before we let you go, I just wanted to mention that we also have the all access pass offer if you guys want to upgrade, so you can get full access to all 35 plus sessions. And we have audios, you can download them and you can listen to them on the go. Check it out at sevenfiguresellersummit.com/order. This way you can check out, day one sessions as well, mindset, that have closed. And other than that, anything else that you guys like to share, guys? Any parting comments to everybody watching today about scaling your business?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on, Peter, go.
I was just going to say it was nice to meet you, Nick, Jana, and Chris. Yeah, really interesting to get to know you, and I'm looking forward to tapping into your speech sessions as well.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
I was going to leave a quick message saying scaling a business takes a lot of time. Just break it down and try and work out what you need to do and work on it. I'm still doing it, and it's an ongoing process. And thanks for having me.
Never-ending process.
Never-ending.
Yeah.
And keep it simple. Keep it simple. Shaving away complexity. It's complex enough as it is. Just and when you get something that resonates, just doubling down on what works, rather than following all the other bright shiny objects that are out there. It's very tempting, but
Yeah, I remember one guy gave a presentation where he was saying like, he was doing $1 million on eBay. But he said he shut his eBay account down because eBay was taking 80% of his time, and he was doing $7 million on Amazon.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
So having a life, like we like to find the balance of business and lifestyle. So we don't want it, sort of let it control us, and so it's difficult to find that balance.
For sure. And then we have some comments from our viewers, from Karen. Thank you to all the speakers today. And thank you, Jana, for staying up for this recap session.
2 a.m., right?
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Much appreciated.
Thanks,
Much appreciated. Derek says, thanks all. Montserrat, thank you for all the amazing information. So thanks so much, guys. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about profitability, okay? So you can keep more money in your pocket at the end of the day. I think that's what everybody wants. We have Sophie Howard talking about using your Amazon skills to diversify your business to other avenues. She talked about consulting, building an agency. This way you can boost cash flow, reduce your risk. Yoni Mazur from Getida, he shows you how to use Amazon reimbursements, so you're not leaving money on the table. Jeff Bezos' table, he doesn't need any more money. You can get your money back from him if they are overcharging you. Tyler Jeffcoat, seller accountant, he works with 7 and 8 figure sellers to share the top 10% of what they're doing to boost profitability that you might not be doing. Rafael Elbaz from Unicargo, shipping best practices as you scale from 6 to 7 figures. Kenny Sang from Ping Pong, how to increase profits and lower your international payment fees as you scale internationally. Andy Humphrey, Shopify 7-figure store owner. He talked about how he squeezed almost $100,000 more profit out of his Shopify store since COVID by changing just 4 things. He's actually selling less than before, but he's getting more profit. And then finally, Elaine Pofeld, she's the author of the $1 Million One-Person Business. She's talking about how a look behind the scenes at these tiny businesses, big money. Look at how these entrepreneurs operate with lean teams, kind of like, what you see everybody on the call, like, what Nick is doing, what Jana is doing, what Chris is doing, what Peter is doing. So definitely check out that tomorrow. All right. So thank you again, guys. Super grateful for everyone for their time, Gary. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you at the summit. All right. Okay. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.